Third month, the 5th day of 35.
And here in Jamestown?
Yes.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
I remember running up through across the route, Primary Market Road, from Casadega to Sinclairville. That was a dirt road at the time, and we had 218 acres. And I remember running across the road and going up in the woods and telling Lorimer Putnam and my dad they started a big war. And he said, "Who started it?" Dad said, and Lorimer Putnam says, "Don't make no difference, but it'll be a big war." And the time I got back to the house, I took quite a whooping, I'll tell you, from my ma. And she was a baker, but she had all the bakery tools. Her baker's board was almost as big as this table. But she also had a flat spoon, and I understand that's how you mix the flour with the sugar or whatever you're making. And she walloped me about 3 times that. Some of them didn't hit on my hind end. They hit right side my head, and she says, "You sit down there and tell your dad what you had done." And I says, "He knows, Ma." I ran up to the woods to tell him.
Yeah.
But she couldn't find me outside, and she thought I'd run away or something.
Oh, gosh.
Totally hated Walter Winchell reports. I'd go in my bedroom and cry.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. North and South America, and all the ships and clippers at sea. Let's go to press. Flash, London. The terms of surrender for the Italian army in Ethiopia have just been handed to Mussolini's representatives.
For once, the American people found out that even if you got money, you can't get gas unless you got stamps.
Mm-hmm.
He says, it's coordinating the effort of a lot of Americans, but it's a shame we have to lose so many Americans to get cooperation. My oldest sister's husband, his name was Edmund McNeil. He finished up in a nursing home over here. He was a prisoner of war for 5 years. Mm. And he was a member of Merrill's Marauders.
The 5,307th Composite Unit. It took a news correspondent to think up the name that stuck. Merrill's Marauders. The Marauders were formed as a result of the historic Roosevelt-Churchill-Quebec meeting. The stormy history of this unit includes a congressional hearing. It leads finally to a distinguished unit citation, the equivalent of a personal commendation for every soldier in the outfit. The Marauders fought a tough war, and it makes a terrific story.
Quarterback is stuck. Drop that gun.
And he was the most decorated Army person in New York State. And the old, whatever number it was, Vets Club down there at 2nd Windsor adopted him as their favorite son. And he eventually died, and he said, "I'll tell you one thing, I'd never lived this long if you hadn't have taken me down there to associate with veterans and to realize that I wasn't the only one going through this." I adored the guy. I mean, I didn't know Merrill's Marauders no more than I did the Polar Brush Man, but the only thing he talked about, they put him in a wooden crate, like a pig crate. And after reveille, they would come around and start a fire. And apparently they had charcoal or some sort of coal. But about 10:30 in the morning, each prisoner would see there would be placed 3 pieces of coal that he could reach with like a soup spoon, a big soup spoon. And he better be raking up around there from the dust and stuff, all the twigs he could. And if a rat went by, you better catch it, because that's going to be your meal. Mm. You can cook it, but you aren't coming out.
Well,
Yeah, he was a guy. Every other time he'd say something, he'd say, "And from the bowels of the earth, I pray for my brothers in action." My uncle was in the Navy, and I don't know if you want this in there or not. I don't know if he ever disclosed it, but my dad's brother Bob used to be superintendent for Stockton, and they gave him the money to go to college, and he went and joined the Army. And while he was there, he became a spy in China, all through the Second World War. They agreed to move his wife to Alaska so that if he did have a short time to visit, he would have access. But he was some character.
joined. What year did you join?
In 19, I think it was the 9th of February 1954. The Korean War was going heavy duty. Chewing on a cigar when I got off the bus at Parris Island. Now you go down there by rail to Yamasee, and then you go from Yamasee onto the base in a bus. And this guy keeps hollering, "The smoking lamp's out." Well, how many people up north ever heard of a smoking lamp?
Right.
I know I didn't, but I was chewing on a stubby cigar. I got off the bus and he pushed it in my face and he went to the ground.
He went to the ground.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he fell down.
With a little help?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We were supposed to go to Camp Lejeune, and they changed the whole deal and said, "You're going to Camp Pendleton, California." And I said, "Oh, okay." So we shipped out, and we got out there, and he said, "You're now going to be in 2nd Marine Division, 7th Marine Regiment." And he says, "The points you make here make up a difference of what kind of assignment you'll receive when you get to your destination." And they had me in special services because they thought I was going to Quantico. I went up to Quantico, but that was only paperwork because I went right from there to Camp Pendleton.
Did you find your way then over to Korea?
Oh yeah, up near the reservoir.
Okay.
Primarily to do with covering Quonset with plastic. All they got in there is kerosene heaters with little fans to blow the fumes out. I says, "I'll go." Well, about that time, that was in, I believe, October of '55. So you had battery-powered gloves on. You had rough nails about that long, and with the gloves on, I nailed right through the glove, right through the thumb, and couldn't get the glove off because it was nailed into my fingers. So finally, somebody come over and says, "Just a minute," he says, "I'll stick a bayonet out the fingers, and that way we can rip the glove and get the glove off."
You were over there basically putting on plastics to these Quonset huts. That's
Yeah.
your job. Did they have you doing anything else while you were there?
And he says, "You know why you get point all the time on patrol?" And I said, "Well, I don't really know, but I can imagine." And he says, "No, you get point all the time because you're the only one over here." This is the way he would do it. Abel, Baker, Charlie, Dog, Easy, Fox, Hal, Item, that's you. He says, "You can read a compass, so you go from point to point and call back in and let us know what's going on." And I says, "Can I get in a different company?" And he says, "Not right away." And it wasn't long afterwards they knew that I had set dynamite here in the States. For at least 3 weeks, we got 3 major bridges that got to come out. So back I went. Well, I was there about six 6 months and a week the first go around, and 3 weeks when I went back blasting. But at the same time, I screwed my back up. I mean, I had earlier in the military screwed my back up, and I had the knee dislocated, and so they didn't want me around for weight. They wanted me down for what I could do and get out of town.
How did you get your Purple Hearts?
Ricochet, the Chinese would shoot from that mountain. The reservoir's down here. Right behind our trails was more, and they'd just shoot at the rocks, and it would hit you. For example, I'm not going to try to show you the second one, but it's right there. They hit in the side most generally.
So they're out to wing you, so you'd be,
Oh, yeah.
you guys would have to take
There's one
yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
And the other one is right there, but you're headed north. We was only 8 miles from the Korean border.
And your role there at the reservoir was, what were you doing there?
Well, initially we were keeping track of the Chinese buildup, and as they merged around it would be the north end of it, were they combining up with the North Koreans, or was there going to be two flanks they had to put up with? That reservoir was 7-8 feet thick of ice, and they'd run tanks across it. Our troops would. But if I seen a 6x6 out there or a Jeep out there, somehow they got knocked out of commission. I want a Jeep. I want one German howitzer, 40 rounds, 250 caliber, and I want a BAR tripod. I'd wait until he got pretty close to me, but the Jeep and one green flare was what I told the guy in the Jeep. Get out here, pick me up, and go zigzag back. And he was always right there, and I never got hit in the Jeep, but I got hit sometimes with shrapnel. Most generally, he was marching at night to get to a deposed position, they used to call it. As much rock as you can get behind and still be able to shoot the Chinese coming across the reservoir. You do it all.
You do it all?
You do it all, yeah. You normally went there on a 6x6, all-wheel drive with a dump body on it. And that's how you got up to the underside of the bridge. And you better be hurrying. And you don't wear gloves. You put a lot of drop cord to set it off, but they used to tell us, and you should have learned to knit. If you'd learned to knit when you was younger, you'd have all them wires hooked by now. What in the hell? The only thing I'd knit would be gloves, and that'd be tangled in the wires, but it's not hard. It's not complicated once you understand it. Everything's got to come off your elbow. Another ring, how many feet? You know, if they told you so many feet, you knew you had to pull so many rings off. And in your hand up here, you had a hoop where you could pull that wire over and stop and bury the end of it so you could touch it off. You could shoot the end of it and touch it off.
Now, when you blow a bridge, do you set it up so it's a sequential thing? So it blows in the middle first, and then it goes back? Or?
Depending upon the piers. Now, if the piers are right into the mountain, you'll start in the middle.
Yeah.
Because you aren't going to do much damage over in hard rock. The ones toward China were much more rigid than the North Korean. They didn't have good engineering or anything, but I knew what the assignment was going to be, so I was taking orders here and all the way over to there. They flew us back for that mission. And the minute that bridges went down, they shipped us out. Here's their theory. You got a special forces group, and they've been blowing bridges since the Second World War. You break them up, and everything's going to hell. You ain't gonna get no work out of any of them.
Yeah.
Because they all depended on each other. You're better off to send 2 people in here, do that job, get done with that job, and go do that job.
Plus, you don't want the enemy to get a hold of those guys
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. So that's, and it was, I would say, probably the most strategic you could get, because if they took you out by helicopter, one was about 35 miles toward China.
So you were behind enemy lines all this time.
Oh yeah, some of it, well, I'm putting dynamite out, I am, definitely. But we went up,
Can you imagine what the Chinese would have done if they caught you?
oh shit, ain't no question. Ain't no question. You know, I'll tell you though, my dad said, if you don't go to church, no matter when you die, the Army will be heaven as compared to where you're going. They let us out December 10th, and we should have stayed February 9th. And here everyone is clapping, hooray, we're getting out. Hooray, we're getting out. Well, they didn't have, at that time, military personnel get priority on flights home. Back on Pendleton, I had a 32 Ford two-door sedan. And everybody told us, go up to Fort Ord, they'll take you right to Niagara Falls. We went up there and he said, let me see your paperwork. And we showed him. He says, I'll tell you what, you ain't even gonna drive around the guard shack. Back out. He went out and backed the other guy out. He says, you're a civilian, you ain't got no business pulling into the gate like that. So we went down to San Diego because I knew a lot of trucking companies, even though they weren't construction. I knew Faulkner Plate Glass, I knew Masterson Transfer. I said, maybe we can get a ride in the bunk. That didn't work. So we went to the Silver Dollar Bar, had a couple beers, got in a fight, and the military personnel that takes you in is Navy. I got over there and the local judge says, I'll tell you what, boys. He says, I'm going to give you a chance to get out of town. I'll have a patrol car take you over to the station. He'll take you to the Greyhound bus station, and he'll take pictures of your tickets, both of you, to Las Vegas. And you better be getting on that bus. So we got on that bus.
So, but for a bar fight, if you hadn't gotten in a bar fight and been sentenced to get out of town, you might still be in San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego or Las Vegas.
And you have 2 Purple Hearts, huh?
Well, yeah, I told them nail them on a tree somewhere. They kind of, when I seen what a bad whipping we was taking in Vietnam, and then go right around Korea and go to Thailand and clean Social Security out at the same time. That's the money that sent us there. That discouraged me. I hurt a lot of my patriotism, but I never gave up the patriotism of winning the battle that you're involved in.
Yeah.
Be able to say you done your best you could with your friends and protecting those that are not capable of protecting themselves.